This is Coach Mike. Today I'm joined with Megan Tzanoukakis, who's the president and CEO of Sussex Injection Molding, Inc. And I have to share this stat with you. They're a custom molder, assembly, automation for multiple industries, healthcare, consumer products, agriculture. But we're talking to Megan today, and I'm going to ask her a few questions. They have 50 employees, 50 in the 25-year club, which is an amazing stat for anybody. So Megan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mike. Happy to be here.
So let's start with a little bit of your personal story. Where were you born? Where do you live? Hobbies?
Yeah, so I was born in Heartland, so not too far from Sussex. I currently live in Milwaukee with my husband and my two kids. I have a son who is 7 and a daughter who's 5. And I attended Marquette University and
Cool.
studied accounting. So I worked in public accounting at PwC for 4 years before I eventually joined the family business, which is Sussex IM. And I have been here for about 10 years now. And I've worked in a variety of roles, all manufacturing based, so not accounting at all. So I changed career paths a little bit there. But I started in manufacturing scheduling and I worked my way through fulfillment and supply chain to eventually be the president and CEO today.
Great. So I think you told me that the company's changed hands multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
So the ownership now is back to private, family owned.
Correct. Yep. So we started in 1977 as a small private company, a few entrepreneurs, and it was owned until 2000 by that group.
Okay.
And in 2000 they were bought by Rexam, which is a very large packaging company.
Right.
And then the company became a plant, right? And hundreds of plants worldwide. And in the 2008-2009 financial crisis, Rexam wanted to sell one of the plants back, this plant, back to the owners or the people who'd been managing the business for the past 10 years when Rexam owned them.
Sure.
So my dad had worked here since 1980. So worked in a variety of roles from engineering, sales, and during Rexam's time, he ran 10 plants all across North and South America. So he was one of the gentlemen who bought the business back along with 2 others in 2010.
Okay, cool. When did you realize that you could be the president and CEO, or is that still something that you're going to decide in the future? I mean, it's an easy job, right? Everybody just sits around and eats bonbons.
Yeah, that's a tough one. So I originally, when I went to college, this was not a family business, right? I had never planned on working here. I worked here in my summers in like HR and purchasing, just kind of, learn about business.
Sure.
And I just love the culture, right? I love the people here. I knew that, eventually maybe I would want to work here. And when my dad bought the business, he said, I want this to be a family business. If you guys want to work here, we'll find a role for you. And when he offered me a role in scheduling, I was shocked. I did not anticipate working in production at all. I was a sit behind the computer, crunch numbers type of person. And when I started working here in scheduling, I just loved it. I loved being on the shop floor. I loved being with the people, solving problems, working with every single department. It was where I should have been my whole career. And it was at that point my dad said, if you want to run this business someday with the knowledge you're gaining in this area, you can do that. And that was where I had to decide, right? Is that the path I wanted to take, or did I want to be in, the core of manufacturing? And I said, I think I can run this business, and I believe in it, and I believe in our people, and they're the ones who are doing it every day, right? I don't do the transactions every day. I'm not out there making it happen. I'm just really here to support them and show them that, we can all make this a great company if we all work together.
Yeah. That's flashbacks for me. We talked a little bit about my backgrounds in plastic too. My first non-supervisory job was production planning.
Oh, really?
So I don't know if you're causing PTSD or
Yeah.
like, hey, the old days were great. But I remember that
Oh
very
yeah.
well.
It's firefighting on a
Yeah,
very intense scale every day.
yeah. What would you say you've developed your leadership style into? Like, what is your version of leadership?
So it's definitely evolved. When I first became a leader here, it was all through influence, right? I didn't have any direct reports. It was all just how can I convince someone to do what I need them to do without me being their boss, right?
Hmm. Yep.
So that was a lot of influence. And over time, I've learned that in order to be the most effective leader, you have to set very clear expectations. Just because you think in your mind that someone should be doing this, they don't necessarily think that.
That's right.
And that was something it took a while for me to learn because I didn't understand, well, how do you not know to just do that? Right? Like it just and
Common sense, right?
yeah, but and it's not that people don't have common sense. It's maybe they just don't know they're
That's
supposed to
right.
do that. So that has really evolved with me is setting clear expectations, telling people how they're doing on those expectations, and making sure, depending on the employee, you have the right amount of communication with them. Some people require a lot of communication.
Right.
Others kind of want a more hands off. I'll see you when I need you. And you have to really learn what each of your employees wants and treat them all individually. So there's no one size fits all there.
Yeah. How would you describe your culture that's caused 50 people to stay for 25 years? Like
So yeah,
I
we
mean,
have
they went through the Wrexham time and the buyback
they,
time.
they did. And that to me is really a testament to our culture that they could evolve with all these different types of leadership and ownership. And what really came out of that was they appreciated so much that my dad and the other two owners bought this plant back because they know very well it could have been closed down
That's
and
right.
they all would have lost their jobs, right? So
Yeah.
there's a real level of gratitude there, but also knowing what it was like to be owned by a larger company. They are very grateful that we're fair, right? We really try to never lay off people, right? We will take a few bad months here and there if we have to. We'll move things around, we'll cost cut because the first thing on our list of cost cutting is not layoffs.
Yeah.
So that really speaks to the culture of our owners and then the fact that our people are hardworking and dedicated and they also want the company to succeed. So and
Yeah.
they'll do whatever's necessary.
Yeah. I love hearing that. I was a fixer. So I was the guy that was closing factories. And I remember the last time we worked, and if you're a CEO listening to this, I was a VP of global operations, and the question I always had was, why can't we be better? Why can't we, as an executive team, figure out how to sell better, make better stuff? Like, why is our default position always, tossing 150 people out and shutting a factory down? So for those of you listening, I just want you to remember that Megan said it's possible to be a human, like run a business with people with work for you, but think of the value to your companies as you listen to this about having employees. I mean, 5 employees at say 25 years, let alone 50. So that's awesome to me. We run all of our businesses on cultural points, so just like music to my ears. What
Hmm.
uh what would you do? Would you do anything differently if you could go back and start over or go back to the beginning of your career?
Yeah, so kind of like what I mentioned before, I went to school for accounting, but I probably would have gone to school for supply chain if that had been like a
A thing.
degree
Yeah,
when I was in college. I think
right.
I think Marquette had a small program in supply chain, but it's nothing like it is now. And if I had known then what I know now about it, I definitely would have chosen that as my degree and gotten a little more experience maybe in like deeper dive in purchasing and planning and those sorts of areas younger. So I could have
Mhm.
brought more experience here to Sussex when I first started here.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. like people, I was in the military when I started, and I was a supply chain guy in the military, and it was all like, well, they just taught you to buy $500 toilet seats. I'm like, well, actually, they taught us to, move 10,000 people in a 2-day window. And yes, we bought
Yeah.
$500 toilet seats, but that wasn't our
That's
purpose.
that is a complicated supply chain though. Holy cow, in the military.
Yeah, it was super fun. So how
Yeah.
about a common myth about, like, people think, and a lot of people we come across, like, being a president or the owner, you just take your money and sit back and watch things happen. What's a myth that you would be willing to dispel for us?
Yeah. So one of the myths that I actually had, um, and this my dad debunked this one, was that you, as like the owner, the president, CEO, you have to have all the answers. Because I would come to my dad and that man always had the answers for everything. And I told him I don't have an engineering degree, right? Like I was
Mhm.
never in sales. How could I possibly do your job? And he said, "Well, just because I do it this way doesn't mean you have to do it this way. And you don't have to have all the answers. That's why you have good employees, people that work with you, and they have the answers, right? Those really high technical automation guys and those
Right,
manufacturing engineers, and they have the answers. And then you don't have to have them. And
right.
that was a big myth for me because I thought he had all the answers, but not everybody does.
Yeah. I mean, it's super interesting because, like you said, like we talk to people about buying results or buying time, right? Do you know what you're paying your people to deliver for you? And the way you described it, if you're buying their problem solving, then you know what you're asking them to do, and it allows you to give them the leeway that they need to be able to be high performers for you.
Hmm.
How about one or two of the most interesting insights that you've got in the recent past?
Oh, there's so many. So one of my favorite ones is when I first started here, our manufacturing manager took me around the shop floor and introduced me to people, and I would have to talk to operators all the time and cell leaders,
Sure.
and I would say like they just don't get it. Like what I'm saying, it's like there's a language barrier, right? Like they're not understanding. And he looked at me and he said, "The smartest people can dumb anything down to the kindergarten level and make someone understand it." And that just resonated with me forever because I would use these big words and I talk too fast
Sure.
because that's just how I am. And I have had so many conversations with people where I have to speak slower and use less words and they get it, right? And even the most complicated engineering problem, if you can dumb it down to a few, right, like kindergarten level sentences and anyone can get it, that means you're really smart. And that is that is one of the best pieces of advice I ever heard because you have to be able to communicate with everyone
Yep.
and to take those complex problems and be able to simplify them, that's gold.
I mean, that helps in every area of your business and your life as well. It's not just like a
Hmm.
work skill.
Yeah,
So,
don't overcomplicate things. Don't try and sound smarter than you need to be, right? It
right.
just it doesn't really benefit anybody when you
Yeah.
talk like that.
We have a relentless saying that true communication is the response you get. Doesn't matter what you think you're saying, you're causing something. And if you want it to be different, then be different. Simplify, right? And
Hmm.
it's simplification is usually
Yeah.
the best
The
path
less
because it,
words, the better.
well, and it makes you think through, what do you really want as the leader, right?
Hmm.
What am I actually trying to get this person to do? So,
Yeah, it goes back to that expectations,
mhm.
right? So when you're communicating expectations, the simpler the better, because if it's overcomplicated, no one will really understand what you're
Right,
looking for.
right. How
Yep.
about something you want to learn outside of work? Anything on the docket for that?
That is a tough one. So my kids keep me very busy with all of their
Yeah,
sports and activities, but I have two like sports that I love to play. So I've played golf my whole life. I
nice.
took a long break in my 20s because I was too busy working and things like that. And now that my kids are a little bit older, they can play golf with me. So I'm trying
Oh, that's
to
cool.
get better. Yeah, my 7-year-old he can hit the ball. He almost birdied a par three a couple weeks ago, and I
Wow.
was a little embarrassed. that he, it was a really good. He went over the water too and landed on the
Wow.
green.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So we're getting to a point where I can play sports and watch sports with my kids, and I really enjoy that. So
Nice.
that's kind of what I'm focusing on in my life outside of work right now.
Cool. So what's the next big thing for Sussex IM? The next 1 to 3 years, your biggest growth, development, challenge, opportunity?
Yeah, so right now, 2024, we are launching two of our largest automation cells that we've ever launched in the history of our company.
At the same time?
So, yeah, one is a 10,000 square foot automation
Wow.
cell with two molding machines at our Lisbon Road facility. And that's for an existing program with an existing customer. And the other is a little bit smaller. It's maybe only 5,000 square feet of an automation cell with four molding machines tied into it.
Wow.
And those are keeping us extremely busy, and they're both launching at about the same time. So, from a resource standpoint, we're a little stretched right now, but those are our main priorities. And then moving forward after that, we're really trying to get more into medical. We have a clean room that we're still trying to fill with the right projects, but we have definitely been looking for those right customers that fit who we are as a culture
Hmm.
and will provide us the right growth for the future.
I mean, I think again, if you're listening to this, that's another critical point. People think every customer, lots of people think any customer is good, but you're focused on the customers that fit you,
Hmm.
make you more successful automatically because they need what you want. Like that's an amazing, that's the best way to go about business. Like
Yeah. It's
business is
been an
supposed to be
evolution
fun.
for us. It hasn't always been
Yeah,
that way. And it's something that we've had to work on really hard to find who is that ideal customer and how do they fit into our business.
sure. Yeah, I mean, at some point the business becomes a thing, right? And we kind of
Hmm.
like we're starting to more like parent it than it
Yeah.
is to force it to get work done. So yeah,
Hmm.
one last question that I didn't prep you for. And that question is there a question you wish that I would have asked you that I didn't?
Oh, that is a good question. Um, the question that most people ask that you didn't is about the family dynamic of our business. So
So,
I have
so how's the family dynamic
I
of your business, Megan?
because we are a family business.
Yeah.
So I am the president and CEO, but I have two siblings that also work at the business with me.
Mm,
So my brother is our chief technical officer, and he is in charge of sales and engineering. And my sister, Elizabeth, is in charge of marketing. So it's very different working with your siblings,
sure.
but in a great way. Like we have such a good relationship, and we always put the business first instead of ourselves. And that is the
That's a
real
high level skill
it is. And
to do
that's the
that.
benefit of working in a family business where you're very open, you're very honest, and the business is like a family member, right?
Hmm.
And you have to consider it in everything you're doing. And we do that, but it adds a different dynamic than some other companies.
Yeah. That's a great question. We never think about it because we are involved in that a lot, but
Yeah.
most of them aren't going the way that you described, because it's working with people who have, let's say, less collegial
Yeah.
dynamics in their families. So that's a great point. Again, if you're listening, it can be done. You can be part of a family business that's thriving and successful for your community and your stakeholders. So Megan
Yep.
Tzanoukakis, thank you for joining us today. Pleasure to chat with you and best of luck as Sussex continues to grow.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
Great.